Okay, good evening. Thank you for your patience. We're ready to call tonight's board meeting to order. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll begin tonight's meeting with comments from Superintendent Moore.
Is that me? Good evening. I'm proud to lead a school district that can boast thousands of highly effective and dedicated educators. Tonight, I'd like to highlight several teachers and support staff who recently have been honored for their exceptional work. Allison McCauley of Fuquay-Varina High School became our district's first ever School Library Media Coordinator of the Year at the Celebration of Teaching Excellence last week. Congratulations next to Annette Thornhill, the school social worker for Leadmine Elementary and Dillard Drive Middle Schools, who has been named our district's School Social Worker of the Year. And lastly, I'd like to recognize the 4 winners of the Diane Kent Parker First Year Teacher Award. Christina Chase Lane, 3rd grade teacher at Reedy Creek Elementary, is described by her principal, Catherine Yanello, as truly a natural. She has a great rapport with all of her students, and they know she cares about them. Caroline Markoch, dance teacher at Ligon Magnet Middle School, draws praise from Principal Greta Dula for being an inspiring young professional whose passion for equity has already made a positive impact on Ligon's culture. Joshua Haney, music teacher and orchestra director at Rolesville High, was an accomplished musician before he became a teacher, excelling in competitions up and down the East Coast. And so, Principal Deidre Lassiter says, he has been and done everything that I could have hoped for our string students and more. And Rachel Godot, a special education teacher at Salem Elementary, has worked well with both her students and her more veteran colleagues. Principal Derek Evans says Ms. Godot's compassionate and methodical approach to her new cross-curricular kindergarten classroom has been nothing short of inspiring. All of these dedicated professionals represent the very best of what educators can and should be, and serve as a reminder of the Wake County Public School System's Strategic Plan Vision 2020 core belief number 3. Well-supported, highly effective, and dedicated principals, teachers, and staff are essential to success for all students. I thank them for their commitment to serving all students well. We know that excellent educators don't just happen. That's why our district has been taking steps to recruit and train the next generation of outstanding educators. I encourage any current high school senior who intends to pursue a career in education to apply for our Future Teachers program. They would join the more than 80 college students currently enrolled. Participants are guaranteed a teaching position in the Wake County Public School System upon completion of a 4-year education program leading to a North Carolina teaching license. The Future Teaching program, entering its 5th year, now has its first WCPSS employee. Devin Plants started his job as a 10th grade honors English teacher at Panther Creek High School 2 months ago. I believe he graduated early. Plants says, the most meaningful part of this experience has really been the other people I have met during my time with Future Teachers. They have shown me how important it is to put your heart into teaching. You can read more of his story on the district website. Current seniors and their parents are encouraged to visit wcpss.net/futureteachers to learn more about the program. The deadline to apply is April 5th. Finally, this evening, I'd like to share a few moments from last week's topping off ceremony for the renovations at Wiley Magnet Elementary. A beam signed by students and staff was placed in the superstructure of the additions. I invite you to watch a short video of the event where students and adults talk about the importance of the school renovation project, which is scheduled for completion in 2020.
Good afternoon. My name is Helen Kuntz.
And I am her sister, Liza Kuntz.
We would like to welcome you to Wiley's topping off ceremony.
Did you know that Wiley is an international studies magnet school? Did you also know that a topping off ceremony is an international tradition for construction projects?
Anyone in our school's community will tell you that Wiley is a special place. And when I think about the generations of students who have preceded us, it reminds me that we too are part of its history.
When I was in second grade, I helped to plan out the new Wiley with my whole grade. The most popular request was for a swimming pool. Unfortunately, we won't have a pool, but we will have a humongous media center. I love to read, so this is one of the reasons I'm excited about the new Wiley.
I've learned much about Wiley's history from our wonderful architect, Matei, and it's truly piqued my interest as I've tried to imagine the storms and triumphs the Wiley community has weathered. Since Wiley's been in place, the Great Depression, World Wars, Vietnam, desegregation, the Civil Rights Movement, recessions, just to name a few. Amazingly, through the good and bad, this public institution has remained a strong pillar in the Wiley community.
At the old Wiley, we had to walk around to get places. At the new Wiley, we will now have access to indoor corridors that will take us around the building. Goodbye shivels on cold days and adios umbrellas on rainy days. No matter where we are, we will always be the Wiley family.
That concludes my comments for this evening.
Thank you. What a wonderful example of how investment in physical infrastructure is also an investment in the children of our future. It is, if buildings could talk, a building like Wiley that handled my own two children, by the way, would have many stories to tell. It's a wonderful place. Tonight, I want to begin by acknowledging that our colleague, Ms. Johnson-Hostler, is not here tonight. She's been with her daughter at the Biden Foundation initiative. There's a program, Youth Leads, who's focused on addressing gender-based violence. And our own Wake County Public School student and daughter of Ms. Johnson-Hostler is one of the speakers on one of the panels for that. So a great opportunity for engagement in very critical work. I also want to acknowledge here from the board that March is Women's History Month. We haven't had formal celebrations as a board with respect to that. I'm always struck that while the reasons for it aren't always the best, because there was a time when the teaching profession was one of the only professions available to women. That's a problem. At the same time, I want to acknowledge the phenomenal work and leadership that woman after woman has provided to education, and where we are today in education really is standing on the shoulders of many great women. So as an educational institution, I just want to publicly acknowledge and thank the very long history of dedicated women, as well as women who are currently engaged in leading the education profession, and we're very proud to have you here, Superintendent Moore. We have lots of great things to celebrate in terms of noting our teachers. Last week, we again were able to recognize the new class of National Board Certified Teachers. We had over 100 new and over 100 renew, keeping us for the 13th year running the school district in the nation that has the largest number of National Board Certified Teachers. Congratulations to all of you. We also had our wonderful performance, Pieces of Gold. Many of us board members were able to be there. I suspect many of the, well, I know some of the principals and whatnot in the audience. I saw you there. The Pieces of Gold is a phenomenal annual celebration of the arts and the way that arts has an impact on all of those critical things that we want to see developed in every student. It's not a secret that I'm a passionate supporter of the arts. I also want to call out that several of the schools I could see, because I've been watching this over the years, I want to call out and appreciate the several schools who have really been making an effort to increase the diversity in their arts offerings. Arts is an area that has no place being biased toward one race or another. And we need to get to the point where all of our dance, all of our theater, all of our chorus, those groups need to look like our schools. Some progress was made. We have a long ways to go, but I do want to acknowledge the progress that was made and the phenomenal performances by so many of the students who engaged with us. Several hundred students participated. Ms. Kushner and I were in the afternoon, and I believe I saw Ms. Scott was at the morning session. The Wake County PTA Reflections Awards were given. Every year, the PTA has a theme where they encourage students to engage in the literary arts, visual arts, performing arts, around a theme, and this year the theme was Heroes Among Us. And we had quite a number of very outstanding presentations, and it was great to recognize those students. Finally, I'll note that yesterday we had a very productive discussion with several of the Wake County legislators. It's really important for us all to recognize that governing is a team sport. More often than not, I hear people say, we've got to get politics out of X, Y, or Z, particularly education. And I argue back, no, we don't need to get politics out of education, because politics is public education if you live in a democracy. Each and every one of us is part of that process. And so we need to get politics into that work. We just need to make sure that that politics is doing the right and good work to foster our strong public education system that provides opportunity for every child every day. And it was very important for us to work together with our fellow team members in the legislature. And tomorrow we'll have opportunity to work with our fellow team members on the Board of Commissioners, because it is together as an entire community that we're going to be able to ensure that we have strong public schools. And that concludes my comments. Vice Chair Sutton.
Thanks. Just a couple of announcements. Just want to send a shout out to the Enloe PTA. I participated in a leadership panel discussion last week where they looked at the progress of implementation of our strategic plan and also issues around equity and access to educational opportunities for all students. So it was a wonderful opportunity to participate in that discussion and participate with other leaders on that panel and to talk about equity and the work that they're doing at Enloe on so many fronts. So thanks to the Enloe PTA and Principal William Chavis, Dr. Chavis. And then I also want to send a shout out to the Southeast Raleigh High School Lady Bulldogs. They went to the third state championship finals over the weekend. Unfortunately, they did not bring back the gold, but they still represented us well. And so shout out to Principal Dr. Stephanie Smith and Coach Nicole Myers. They had a wonderful season nonetheless. They were nationally ranked. Their JV team even went undefeated. And it's like I said, though they did not bring home the gold, we are extremely proud of them and the program that they have developed over at Southeast Raleigh High School. So hats off to them, and please give them a round of applause. Even in their absence, they're not here. So that's all.
Today we'll start with Ms. Scott.
Thank you. Just, I don't have a whole lot of notes to add or a lot of words to share this evening, but there is a Board Advisory Council meeting for District 1, and it'll just be District 1. We had a great time combining with Ms. Cash the last time, but this is going to be Monday, April the 8th, 6 p.m. for BAC members and 6:30 for the public. And the agenda is we're going to be hearing from the Student Health Advisory Committee, and the rest of the agenda is still TBD. And that's at Sanford Creek Elementary School in Rollsville. As Dr. Martin mentioned, I was able to attend the PTA Reflections this past Saturday. And something that was really striking to me, in addition to all the children being recognized for their creative endeavors, were the words of Superintendent Moore, because I always enjoy hearing her speak so passionately about education and about our schools, and about our students, about our teachers. And she mentioned that when it comes to the arts, that they really all embody part of the strategic plan that involves collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking, the 4 C's. And in addition to March being Women's History Month, it is also Music in Our Schools Month. So I wanted to say a big thank you to all of our music teachers in Wake County Public Schools. I am a little biased as a music teacher, but that's okay. But I do want to thank you because, as you know, in the arts, we do have those 4 C's every day, and those are the skills that will lead our students into the future. So thank you.
Ms. Cash.
I also enjoyed all the things that we talked about that you've already mentioned. In addition to that, though, I did go to the El Pueblo, how you say it, and I had a great, almost hour and a half, 2-hour meeting with a lot of students and parents there, and it was a great experience, and I learned a lot. So I want to continue to meet with them on a regular basis. It was very helpful. Also went to the celebration of the Boys and Girls Club, and there was some wonderful students that spoke that had some great stories about how the Boys and Girls Club have helped them, and they went on to be Youth of the Year and going on to do great things, going to college, but had some really great stories about how the Boys Club and Girls Clubs turned their life around. So that was a great time, too. Our back meeting is also on Monday the 8th, but at North Forest Pines Elementary, District 3. It'll be at 6 o'clock on that evening.
Ms. Kushner.
Thank you. Good evening. Wanted to I was honored yesterday at Brook's Museum Magnet unveiled a beautiful piece of art and a mural in memory of Felicia Locklear. Please go by that beautiful school and see this beautiful piece of art that's honoring one of our dear principals we lost last year. So it was just a wonderful to be with that community that was celebrating a great life and a great leader who gave so much to our school system. The District 6 BAC will be on Friday, April 5th. I think it's the 5th, at Douglas, whatever that Friday is. At Douglas Elementary, and we also will be hearing from the Student Health Advisory Council as well as looking at budget issues. So that is open to the public, and it's at noon at Douglas. Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Glad to share. Last week, the school district, Superintendent Moore and I, hosted about 40 leaders from Cary and their Leadership Cary program to talk about public education, to give them a little more information about their school district and how we can work together to continue to have it be the best school district in the nation, in my opinion. We're glad to provide that opportunity for those young leaders to learn more about what we do every day. I had the pleasure of attending the 5th grade exhibition at Farmington Woods International Baccalaureate Primary Years Program, Magnet Elementary School. These 5th grade students were amazing. Teams of 4 to 6 students had selected topics that they researched as part of their project. They were documented. The research was documented. The presentations were impressive. They were teamwork. There was no dominant personality and that I could see in the team presentations. They had some very interesting subjects. Safely traveling to school around the world. There were 3,500 children lost traveling to school last year around the world. Significant transportation issues that we don't think about at all. How poverty affects shelter. Think about that. Plastic pollution in water. And they go on and on and on, and really tackling some very difficult, challenging subject matter, doing the research and then making a presentation and offering steps that the viewers, the listeners, could potentially take to based on the research they found and their recommendations. So I'm very excited to participate in that. And, you know, Farmington Woods has been named the best magnet school twice now, I think, in the nation. And they are a model school for the International Baccalaureate program that send people to Farmington Woods to figure out how to do it. I want to thank along with Dr. Martin again, to thank the legislative delegation members who met with us yesterday. We talked about the budget issues and state funding operations. We talked about calendar flexibility. We talked about the need for more people who work with our students as social workers, nurses, counselors, and psychologists. And there was some good, robust discussion about that. Don't know what will come out of the legislature, but the needs were put on the table. And I'll jump on the BAC wagon for April 8th. We'll be clearly talking about the budget in Cary at the Briarcliff Elementary School on the 8th, BAC 9 at 5:30 in the afternoon. Thank you.
Ms. Mahaffey.
I was able to attend a meeting of the Education Council at the Fuquay-Varina Chamber of Commerce. They meet monthly, and it's always interesting to hear from the business community. The biggest questions are, how can we help serve our schools? What can we do? And hearing how things we decide at this table impact our schools and hearing from the community is always welcome. And want to thank the business partners that help make Pieces of Gold possible. It's always an amazing opportunity, and to see the range of artistic vision and you know, it's not every child doing the same song. Yeah, I think there were 3 numbers from The Greatest Showman, but they were all a different interpretation of those songs, and it was just, I'm blown away. And then Holly Springs High School held their first robotics competition. Their robot Benji was down in the pits, got to go visit and learn a little bit more of the collaborative process that goes into these robotic teams, from having to have a business model so they can build business partnerships and raise funds in order to purchase parts, and they have about 6 weeks to build the robots to, you know, move a disc and put it here, or pick up a ball and place it here, or lift up the robot platform so that you can get on, you know, a tiered platform. And it was just amazing to see the energy, to see the hard work and teamwork and that went into this from our high school students. And, you know, my second grader asked me, "Mom, what's going on?" I said, "I'm not sure, but it's exciting." But just to see the camaraderie, and everyone has their own little pin or sticker that they give out, so you see that it really is a community, even though it's a competition. And their next competition, I believe, is in April in Asheville, and I wish them best of luck.
Mr. Haggerty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Continuing to beat the BAC drum, District 7 held its BAC meeting about a week ago. I want to thank Mr. Cedric Williams and all of the principals, assistant principals, PTA leaders, and BAC members who joined us at York Elementary. We also had the Student Health Advisory Council come and present, discuss their work, but most of our focus at the meeting was on the legislature. we had a group from representative from the North Carolina School Boards Association share their legislative agenda, their projections for the legislative session, and then we got to talk about the legislative agenda our organization adopted. And, you know, I will say I'm very proud of the work that we did to put this document together. We had great discussion. Everyone, I think, appreciated how it aligns with our principles as an organization. They see our priorities shared in what we're asking for. And though we discussed every item, I do want to come back to 4 that I think everyone really focused on. There was a lot of resonance around addressing the problems with K-3 class size legislation and the hardships that's putting on a number of our schools and our parents and our teachers and our administrators. School calendar alignment, the possibilities that are before us if we can align the calendars with our local community calendars. There was a lot of interest in that. Teacher pay, principal pay, and especially pay for all of our other school workers. Oftentimes it seems like they get left out of a lot of the discussions. And there was a real appreciation expressed for those staff and the work that they do for our children every day. And then lastly, I think this is the one that got the most attention. You know, the Wake County Public School System, the Board of Education, and the administration calling for increased student support services. When you look at the ratios of students to counselors, of students to nurses, of students to school psychologists, and where we rank as a nation, there's no excuse for it. It's just shameful, and this needs to be a priority. Everyone in the room agreed it should be a priority, and I'm hoping that our legislators will also see it as a shared priority. You know, this is a conversation. You know, Mr. Chairman, you talk about politics and education. I'm going to look at it a little bit differently. This reaches across party lines, and this is an area where, you know, politics may be at play, but this is where we need consensus because all people have to come together and agree to do what's best for our children. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just clarify politics by what I mean is absolutely bipartisan. Partisanship, no. Politics, yes, because that's what a democracy is. Mr. Sutton, you had one more item.
Just very quickly, when I recognized Southeast Rutherland High School, I did not realize that Dr. Stephanie Smith, the principal, was here in the audience. Dr. Smith, can you stand? It is no small feat for a school to reach the finals in any sport, and for them to get to the finals 3 consecutive years. Is that right? 3 years consecutively? That is no small feat in itself. So I just want to recognize her. I didn't know she was here. So again, thank you for your leadership.
Congratulations from all of us. All right, the next thing we need to do is to approve tonight's agenda. Before I take a motion for that, as I noted in an email to you yesterday or the day before, can't lose track of time. We need to add one item under technology. There is a contract that we need to approve from Spectrum Enterprise Commercial Terms of Service. This has been reviewed by our technology staff, the superintendent, so this is not something inappropriate last minute, but we do need to approve that this month. So that will be added as an action item to tonight's agenda. With that addition, do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Move to approve tonight's agenda with the said correction or addition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion is approved. We now have 3 recognition items. We begin with the recognition of the 2019 National School Psychologist of the Year. I believe Ms. Heather Bowling will be presenting.
It is with great pleasure we recognize the National Association of School Psychologists 2019 School Psychologist of the Year, Lee Kokinis, our Wake County's very own. Is recognized, I want to take advantage of the opportunity to share what important work our instructional support services staff do. Lee is a great example of someone who provides comprehensive school psychological services for students in grades K through 8 at Lynn Road Elementary School and West Millbrook Middle School. In addition, she also provides training and leadership for colleagues throughout our district and at the state level. She advocates for comprehensive services, increased access to mental health services, proportionate staffing, and efforts to support recruitment and retention of school psychologists, all to help improve outcomes for our children, families, and schools. She was selected as the Wake County School Psychologist of the Year in 2016, the North Carolina School Psychologist of the Year in 2017, and she currently serves as a commissioner on Governor Roy Cooper's Commission on Access to Sound Basic Education. She has a background in special education and early intervention with experience working in public schools and community health settings. Ms. Kokinas is an advocate for school psychology and the multi-tiered system of supports. Thank you for your service.
Ms. Kokinas, thank you. I can't say that we know what you do, because you do so much more than we could ever know, but we know how important the work that you do is. We see the impact that you and your colleagues have on our children every day. So on behalf of the Board of Education, we're very proud of this honor, and we want to add our congratulations to this. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I would be surprised if you weren't involved in this as well, but the second item tonight is from Academic Advancement, Wake County Public Schools, Stand Up, Speak Out Bullying Prevention Video Contest. And we will be happy to recognize the winners tonight with us, Ms. Riordan.
Absolutely. Good evening. So yes, I come forward tonight to share with you our competition winners for our Stand Up, Speak Out Bullying Prevention Video Contest. This competition is sponsored by the Wake County Public School System's Bullying Prevention Committee, which is comprised of district, school staff, and community members. This committee is chaired by Cecil Coates, and I thank him, our senior administrator for secondary school counseling. I thank him for his commitment and leadership around our district's bullying prevention efforts all throughout the year. This is our 6th annual video competition, and it kicked off during October of 2018, which is National Bullying Prevention Month. It concluded in January of 2019. These videos are created by students for students, encouraging them not to be bystanders to incidences of bullying or harassing behavior, but rather to stand up and speak out for themselves and for their peers. This year we had 24 video submissions, which is our most ever, and we're proud of each of our schools for their participation. Each school was recognized at the school counselor celebration on February 4th, and tonight we will share with you the winners, the top 3 winners at the elementary, middle, and high school level. We'll recognize the first place winner at each level by presenting you with the schools with a plaque and proudly sharing each of their videos with you. So I'd like to start by recognizing our 3rd and 2nd place winners at the elementary school level, and then we'll ask our 1st place winner, the principal and the school sponsor of the school, to come forward. Ms. Moore will present them with a plaque, and we'll share their winning video with you. So our 3rd place winner at the elementary level is Dillard Drive Elementary. Our 2nd place winner at the elementary level is North Forest Pines Elementary. And our 1st place winner for elementary is Brentwood. If we could have Mr. Epler, Rob Epler, the principal, and the sponsor is Greg Iman, if they would come forward to receive the plaque. And if we have students in the audience who would stand also. Very good. So we congratulate you guys, and now we're going to share your winning video. Find a TV. We don't have popcorn, but that's the board's fault.
Hey guys, this is Ender Dragon 336 coming at you. Gotcha. Hey guys, click the subscription down below to get a special mystery prize in Minecraft. Today we're gonna do a redstone zombie trap. Let's do it. Let's check the comments.
This kid doesn't know how to play Minecraft. I'm better than him. You're bad at this. You're a dummy.
I don't know what to say right now. That's not a bickering noise. Those comments hurt my feelings.
You're coming with me. You're coming with me.
Where am I?
Who are you?
I'm Ender Dragon 336. Who are you? I'm Pro Creeper 99.
You were just making fun of me for no exact reason.
You were making fun of me and it hurt my feelings. I thought it was just funny.
You're my friend. What?
I know, this is just for fun.
I'm sorry.
What do we do now? Wait, we should make a video!
Yay!
I'm Ender Dragon 336, and this is Showstopper 99. We're here to tell you to stand up and speak out against cyberbullying. Join us in this new marathon, the default for no bullying.
Way to go, guys. Let's go help some other people now.
Congratulations, you guys. So choosing's not easy, but you can see why Brentwood won, right? Fantastic video. So at our middle school level, our third place winner is Holly Ridge Middle School. Our second place winner is Fuquay-Varina Middle School. And our winning video belongs to West Millbrook Middle School. So I think Ms. Aman is here, the principal, and April Leon, who is our counseling sponsor. Do you guys have students? Okay, that's fine. Congratulations to West Millbrook, and we'll also enjoy their fantastic video.
Thank you, guys. That's great. I love this.
I am bullied because I am homeless. My clothes are not nice. I am bullied because of my race. I don't fit in.
I'm bullied because I'm quiet.
Statistics have shown when peers intervene and take a stand against bullying, bullying is reduced. Taking a stand lets your peers know that you will not be a bystander. It lets them know you will not tolerate their cruel behavior. Show victims of bullying they are not alone. Stand up, speak out, and help your school be bully-free. Students who are welcoming to anyone, no matter their gender, race, or appearance, are excellent examples of student leadership and a great way to help prevent bullying in schools.
Levántate y habla.
Stå op, tal ud.
Asseyez-vous, expirez-vous. Đứng lên, nói đi. Stand up and speak out. You got this.
Great job, West Millbrook. And lastly, our high school winners. Our third place winner is Millbrook High School. Our second place winner is Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. And our first place winner at the high school level is Crossroads Flex. If we could invite Keith Richardson, the principal, to come forward, and the school sponsor, Natasha Sharp. And we also have the star of the video. Very good. There you go. All right, so if we can take a few more minutes and we'll watch Crossroads Flex's video.
born in the shadows. Through a crack in the window, I saw light. I swam through the ocean, I braved through the seas, and every time I almost drowned, I took a breath in. I fought off the army and soldiers I once stood beside. They try to take my honor, but they'll never take my pride. They never threw stones, no, they threw boulders. Eventually it turned to dust, just wipe it off my shoulders. Now I rise with the heat, I fix my broken wings, and now I fly above the trees, and I stand up and I speak out, and I stand up and I speak out. And
Amazing. Thank you, and thank you for the board's support of our bullying prevention efforts in the district.
Thank you. Very important work. And a common theme in all of those is people need people. We need relationships. That changes lives. Yeah. Thank you to each of the winning schools and each of the entrants. And I'm sure many more were as effective messages that need to be heard. All right. The third recognition item we have tonight is Employee Excellence Awards. And I believe Jason Kennedy will be presenting those awards tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Martin, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. It is my pleasure to bring you this evening the March recipients of the Wake County Public School System's Employee Excellence Awards. Awardees, when I call your name, please come to the front to receive your award from Mrs. Moore and remain up front until all recipients have come forward. Kelly Creech, Director of Health Services, Counseling, and Student Services. As the Director of Health Services, she has been instrumental in developing nationally recognized policy, process, and procedures in the area of health services. One of Kelly's strengths is her unique ability to motivate, challenge, and advocate for her peers and students while maintaining a high level of moral and ethical leadership. She knows the right questions to ask to promote growth and development, not only in students, but also in adults. Katie Carroll, Counselor, Annette Thornhill, Social Worker, Erica Nivens, psychologist, all at Leadmine Elementary. This team lives the core beliefs of our strategic plan each day. They work to develop PD focused on SEL, finding the gifts and talents in every child. The team meets weekly to support students and staff with needs in and out of school to ensure equal opportunities for all learners, eliminating the ability to predict success. They help in making every child feel like they are champions, able to achieve anything with the support of our community. Ms. Annette Thornhill was just announced last week as the 2018-19 WCPSS Social Worker of the Year. Tasha Davis Mills, Senior Administrator, Human Resources. Tasha is a seasoned educator that is a champion for academic excellence from instructional leaders. As a senior administrator in performance management, Tasha serves as a strategic partner for low-performing schools. Tasha serves in multiple capacities in her commitment to close the education gap, partnering with colleges and universities to identify rising future teachers, serving administration to recruit quality candidates, supporting educators in the beginning stages of their career, or facilitating crucial conversations around equity and inclusiveness, and improving teacher accountability and teacher leadership and student learning. She is a champion for employee advocacy. Cecil Bell, Senior Director, Risk Management. Warren Buffett famously said, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. In the WCPSS, we have Cecil Bell, Senior Director of Risk Management, to ask all the right questions so district staff know moving into a project exactly what we're doing. Cecil supports the work of colleagues, always being available and responsive to provide guidance and his expertise as part of initial planning efforts so that activities are implemented smoothly. Ed Stansberry, ID Badge Technician, Security Department. Mr. Stansberry comes in contact with every WCPSS employee at the start of their career. He provides welcoming first impression to our employees. Mr. Stansberry often goes above and beyond, working hand in hand with vendors maintaining our card access systems. Mr. Stansberry's high attention to detail, organizational abilities, pleasant work attitude, and knowledge of work product make him an invaluable member of the security department. Jermaine Sundin, Lead Secretary at Moore Square Middle. When I think of Ms. Sundin, several words come to mind: effective, efficient, warm, generous, kind, friendly, helpful, positive, humorous, knowledgeable, and thorough. No principal or school community could have a better lead secretary. She is thoroughly organized and knowledgeable. In terms of the right-hand man, no one has ever had one better than I have. She is one of Wake County's finest and deserves this recognition. Nona Hardy, Magnet Coordinator, Moore Square Middle. Magnet Coordinator Nona Hardy is one of the greatest employees I have ever worked with in 25 years. Tireless in her efforts to make us Wake's best middle school, she enthusiastically takes on countless duties, always going above and beyond expectations. Her only flaw is her unwillingness to take credit for her greatness and to take credit for school success. But be sure she is a huge part of Moore Square Middle being a school of excellence. Alex Hoffelt, Area Facilities Manager, Regional Maintenance. Alex is not only our regional maintenance manager, but is a part of our school family. Alex is quick to find a solution for any facility issue we are having. We often seek his advice about insulation, sound buffers, aesthetics, and so much more. He always has the answer, or he will research and get back to us. Alex is very personable and interacts positively with all. Glenda Cox, Head Custodian, Heritage High School. During Hurricane Florence, Ms. Cox helped spearhead the relief on the campus, including camping out overnight. Ms. Cox works with all staff members on her campus, including the contracted employees, making sure our campus is clean and ready for her students and staff every day. Ms. Cox is deserving of the Employee Excellence Award because she makes every effort to lend support as well as encouragement to parents, students, and staff every day. Sarah Bankert, teacher 5th grade, White Oak Elementary. Loyal, dedicated, driven. These are just a few words to describe Sarah. She's always one of the first people in the school building in the morning, preparing for what she would call a typical day. However, when you walk into her room, you see clear expectations, student learning, and Sarah's passion shining. Sarah is the epitome of a teacher leader and should be commended for making her 5th grade team run like a well-oiled machine. Katrina Smith, bookkeeper, Southeast Raleigh Magnet High School. Ms. Smith is truly a staple of the SRMHS that keeps us going. Daily, she comes into work with a positive attitude, kind heart, and determination to care for our staff and students in ways beyond that normal duties of a bookkeeper. She is a source of constant joy and takes on the burdens of others as her own and does it with a smile. Our staff, students, and school are better because of her and her commitment to SRMHS and our community. Sue Spivey, Lead Secretary, Apex Friendship High School. Since our inception in 2015, Sue's dedication to our school has been amazing. She is the person who takes care of all of the details that keep the schools running smoothly: payroll, timesheets, leave forms, new employees, maternity leave, and there have been many, and others too numerous to count. Most importantly, she performs these duties with a smile and a caring heart. She is one of a kind. Kimberly Barber, Assistant Principal, Bug Elementary. Ms. Barber focuses on building relationships with the entire school community. She is approachable and always has the idea of what is best for kids, driving their decision-making. Ms. Barber is an amazing listener, gives constructive feedback, and is a critical thinker. She cares for her staff, students, and all the parents that are attached to this noble institution, the best AP I've ever had.
Can we give a round of applause for our Employee Excellence winner?
Now, if you could all turn and face the board to be greeted by Chairman Martin.
On behalf of the board, thank you. It is an honor to have you working with us in the Wake County Public School System. Sometimes we all know that teachers being the first line dealing with students, it is thought that teachers are the main teachers. And they are important teachers, but we want to recognize that you are teachers as well. And I want to thank you for embodying the very characteristics that we try to teach in students. I mean, the 4 C's we talk about for our students, but students need to see it in action. And I heard tonight, the passion and the commitment. The passion is what drives critical thinking. The creativity helps us think about how, not can, we solve a problem. And obviously, it's got to be communicated, and we're only going to do that working together. So thank you for your embodiment of the 4 C's, for being that example of lifelong learners, because that is what all of our students need to see, and you enrich our school system because of that. And Cecil, we know we give you an added challenge with all the risk management. That's part of the job in education. As educators, our job is to push the edge. But we also need those looking out for risk management, including picking up the cane, to make sure we're safe every day. So thank you for all of your work. You truly make us a better place, and we're honored to have you working in our system. Thank you.
Thank you once again. All right, you guys can pick up your things and come to
All right, we'll take just a very quick little break. You are more than welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting, but you don't need to stay. We do want to honor your time.
You got to. Trying to catch up with my winner.
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
All right, take care. Congratulations on the see you later, okay? You want a picture of yourself? Adrian said to wait for her. So you
Okay, we can reconvene as soon as board members return. Let's turn this on. We'll reconvene. It's always an honor to recognize our students, teachers, and employees that they are who make our school system what it is. All right, it is now time for public comment. Citizens who sign up to address the board during public comment will be called upon in priority order, first for items on the agenda and then for items not on the agenda. Each individual speaker will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks. Specific personnel or student matters are not appropriate for this public comment setting, but may be addressed through the applicable WCPSS personnel, grievance policy, or other applicable policies. And I apologize if I mispronounce names. I'll do the best I can. Speaker number 1, Naaman Mahmood.
Good evening. I'm Naaman Mahmood, a junior at Enloe High School. I have been a part of WCPSS for the past 6 years, starting my 6th grade year at Lincoln Middle School. It has been very educational to see how this platform can be used to bring issues to the board. We all get to enjoy holidays, Christmas break, Easter, Good Friday, and Yom Kippur. These holidays are a wonderful way of learning about different faiths. We grow to appreciate our diversity, and that diversity does not make us weaker, but it makes us stronger. After today's vote, we hope to say that Eid will now also be a holiday acknowledged by WCPSS. Muslims are projected to have 50,000 people in Wake County and is one of the fastest growing religions. According to the most recent report by the Association of Religion Data Archives, Muslims have grown in WCPSS since 2000 by 221%. This makes Islam the second most popular religion in Wake County, second only to Christianity in number. On top of this, a very large majority of Muslim families send their kids to public schools. Previously, when the time came for Eid, the Islamic holiday, that happens during the year, many have had to decide between school education or religious duties. Personally, I have had to encounter this dilemma many times. When I would choose to go to school, I would miss a moment of what it truly means to be American, to practice my religion without fear of repercussions. The times I do decide to go to Eid, I would miss vital instruction time, something extremely hard to catch up on. Having a test, a quiz, or a project due that day creates a ripple effect. Once I make up that project, I miss other assignments as well. I could not fully practice my religion because the worries of the instruction missed have always been at the back of my mind. With this vote, WCPSS will be able to take a trend-setting role for the state. Look at school districts in New Jersey, Dearborn, Michigan, Burlington, Vermont, and New York City. All were able to implement Eid as a teacher workday. As the largest public school in North Carolina, we can take this option and be a role model for others to come. We appreciate how the Board of Education listened to over 5,000 people who signed a petition to get Eid as an official holiday and teacher workday at WCPSS, and countless citizens of your district who vote for you. It is motivating to see how the system works in favor of the people's voice. You have helped thousands of children practice their First Amendment rights of freedom of religion. Thank you.
Juida Siasi.
Chairman Martin, esteemed member of the board, Assalamu alaikum, may peace be upon you. I'm honored to come before this distinguished board one more time as a county resident and as a proud member of its vibrant and thriving Muslim community to express on behalf of my community our sincere thanks and deep gratitude for your hard work and tireless efforts in considering our request to acknowledge and recognize our Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr as a teacher workday within the calendar, the Wake County school calendars. Your decision today, or your vote tonight, hopefully favorable to our request, will send a strong message of togetherness at a time where others are perpetuating a narrative of otherness. You will set a fine example in promoting equity and inclusion in every one of our schools, in embracing our differences, our different cultures, and our different ideas, in conveying that diversity is our strength. An opportunity here to not only live in harmony and respect of each other and others from other faith and culture, but to thrive together in open and inclusive society. Muslims have been making, are making, and will continue to make significant contribution to all aspects of this county, this great state, and this country, prosperity for generations to come. We believe that your decision tonight will, in honoring the Muslim community members, wish to celebrate and spend this important holiday with their families, will help in enlightening our understanding of each other. So I really thank you. My community and myself will look forward to your favorable vote tonight and to continuing our important work together towards future successes for our schools and our community. Thank you.
Mariah Sheikh.
I first came to the Wake County Public School System Calendar Committee meeting 2 years ago as a mom who simply wanted her kids to be at home on their holiday. It took quite some time to make it to this day, today, when we await your vote in favor of a calendar that accommodates for a teacher workday on May 13th, 2021. This journey has been a great learning experience for all of us. I've learned how to take a public proposal forward. It has been exciting to see how our system works, how imperative it is for elected officials to hear from the community and see the support behind a cause. I learned how board work sessions operate and how these meeting proceedings happen. However, the best thing that I've learned is that our system still works, that elected officials will give heed to legitimate needs of a tax-paying voter base that elects them. I am not an elected official, and I do not represent any organization. I'm just a parent. In fact, by the time 2021 comes around, 2 of my children will no longer even be in the Wake County Public School System. However, there'll be countless other children who will be ecstatic to spend this holiday with their families. There will be thousands of thankful parents who will be relieved that their kids will no longer have to make this difficult decision when it comes to a religious celebration. The journey has also been a tremendous learning experience for several other Wake County citizens who have learned how to take their voices forward to their elected representatives. These citizens will now have renewed faith in the proper process. I would not be lying if I say that this journey has also been an immense learning experience for all of you who have because we truly acknowledge the hard work that went on behind the scenes in accommodating this requested teacher workday. We're grateful for your role in helping Wake County leap ahead of hundreds of other counties in the country with its recognition of diversity. With your favorable vote tonight, you will manifest inclusivity and understanding. And for that, on behalf of this exponentially growing, tax-paying Muslim voter base of Wake County, thank you.
Karen Carter.
I'm a concerned parent. For almost 2 months, I have emailed the board, the state board, county commissioner, central office staff, DPI, and the MVP authors with numerous concerns and received very few answers to my specific questions. I want to give a voice to all students suffering and not receiving a sound math education due to the implementation of MVP. MVP has 2 professional rating reviews that I can find. The one that MVP posts pretty snippets of on their site, the Washington Review, only reviews a few areas of the curriculum and has the real truth in the detailed comments of the reviewers, but MVP conveniently left that off their site. The much more detailed review by Ed Report sheds lights on several reasons why MVP is literally failing Wake County students. Specifically, the materials when used as designed allow students to fully learn each standard. MVP earns a 2 out of 4. The materials provide intentional opportunities for students to develop procedural skills and fluencies. MVP earns a 1 out of 2. Material supports teachers in differentiating instruction for diverse learners within and across grades. MVP receives a 5 out of 10. And specifically, MVP receives a 0 out of 2 for materials provide support, accommodations, and modifications for English language learners and other special populations. I should go on, but I'll stop there. MVP fails in these key areas. How is this an equitable math curriculum? MVP indeed is radical. It flips Bloom's taxonomy on its head. It wants students to apply, analyze, and create before ensuring they even understand or know the basic concepts they are to be applying. It's like telling the students to go connect the dots without having any dots to connect. When I spoke with Beverly Vance at DPI, she spoke of how North Carolina aims to be leaders of STEM academics. How is MVP going to do that for us? Well, the true impact of MVP is we have kids that once loved math, now hating it. Kids are stressed out. Kids once on the honor path in high schools now going the academic route. Students are spending hours learning the basic math concepts on their own by watching videos or viewing websites. Wake County office recommended. Also, they recommended tutoring, and a large number of them are getting that. But what about those kids who have no data, no Wi-Fi, no ability to pay for tutoring or get a ride home from school to stay for tutoring? Where's the equity in that? So students from all over Wake County keep suffering from a lack of a sound math education. Martin Middle, Broughton, Heritage High, Wake Forest High, Apex Friendship, Green Hope. I can go on. But it's time for the suffering and damage to students and their education to stop. It is time for all students to have equal access to a sound math education. It is time to give teachers the freedom and power to teach and remove the constraints of MVP. Thank you.
Sandy Joyner.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about Math Vision Project also, our new Wake County curriculum. I'm just talking about projects too in general. Every project is an opportunity to learn, to figure out problems and challenges, to invent and to reinvent. A project is a work in progress. It's an experiment. It's not a complete entity. It's an ongoing entity. It's a way to experiment and try new ideas. It has risks. It has unknowns. It may not come to fruition. It may fail. It usually is being managed, hopefully by those who have others' best interests at heart. And indeed, our students are part of this project, the Mathematics Vision Project. It's too risky to subject our kids as part of an experimental teaching model. Their education is too important to be caught in a project that may or may not work. Our students' math future is too critical, and there isn't enough time to be part of something that has to be invented and reinvented. Thank you.
Blaine Dillard.
Just about 1 month ago, I appeared on WRAL TV, a news story about the MVP math curriculum. I was one of supposedly few squeaky wheels at supposedly only Green Hope High School, supposedly just whining about my own son's grades. In reality, the impacts of MVP have been felt throughout much of Wake County, and the impacts are more than grades. The impact is student learning and confidence, and thousands of dollars spent on tutors, and time lost in class not spent learning the fundamentals of math. Since then, our Facebook group has grown to nearly 600 members from around Wake County, many of whom are parents of children faced with a confounding math teaching model and curriculum that is not working for them. It's not working because of the diversity of learning styles being ignored in favor of a one-size-fits-all facilitation-led discovery approach. As our group has collected story after story from parents and students, we find that sometimes MVP is indeed working. Where it is working is when a teacher bypasses the mandate to teach it as designed and instead teaches it with his or her own style and resources, using the MVP materials sparingly. And where it continues to not work is where MVP is used as intended, a game of hide and seek where students grapple, struggle, and beg to learn math fundamentals, not from their teacher, but from their classmates, the internet, parents, tutors, day after day, and test after test. When we ask for any data that summarizes this in-class experience, which we know good and well would be telling administrators that the students aren't learning, the claim is confidentiality. All we are given about Wake is 1.5% and 1.9% increases for last year's Math 1 EOC metrics, attributed to the free OER resource MVP, with no supporting explanation, no context that admits that the prior year's performance was 2.3% for both metrics. Then we're giving the MVP darling Chapel Hill Carborough, which implemented MVP in 2014. Chapel Hill supposedly has outstanding gains, which MVP claims increased from 62% to 70 to 76 to 79%. Wow. 3 years in a row of increases. A nearly perfect linear regression. A 27% increase in portion, reads the graphic proudly. The only problem is it's not true. I've disproved this data, the first 2 years, data points, and the starting point was not 62%, it was 72%. The gains did not go up year after year. It went up in year 1, down in year 2, but the data got in the way of a good story, so a few convenient mistakes were made. But the kicker is this: when you use the correct data, the performance change for the same period is no better in Wake County for the same period, and it's worse than the state overall. Look at it yourself. Chapel Hill washed their hands of this revelation. Nothing to see here, folks. Just like in Wake County, look away, parents. Your eyes are deceiving you. Your failing children are actually learning math. They just don't realize it yet. The irony in this fake and misleading numbers to prop up an experimental failing math project is not lost on
your time's expired.
Thank you.
Iris Castillo.
Hello. Thank you, board members. Thank you for the opportunity of letting me share my concerns with you today. My name is Iris Castillo, as you all know. I am the mother of a child at Rand Road Elementary, a U2 class. Before I begin, please let me share with you how loved and supported my son is at Rand Road. As a parent of a child on a spectrum, I could not ask for a more supportive environment. I tell everybody who will listen to me how much I love every single person at that school, especially his teacher. Just could not say more. Unfortunately, this is where the support ends. My son has been using Wake County Special Education Transportation Services for approximately 6 years. In 6 years, I have emailed, called, and advocated for my son more times than I can count. I'm here today because something has to change. I need your support to help me make these changes. Just to give you an example, this year my son has been transported in a minivan with bed bugs. He has been in a cab with worn tires. He's had 5 different cab drivers. One of the cab drivers, the third one I believe it was texting, using her cell phone, and having inappropriate conversations. This is not personal. I just wanted to give examples of what has been going on, and this is just this year. Recently, he was picked up 15 to 25 minutes late, and that went on for 3 weeks because the cab had to pick up another child in the Raleigh area, and we're in Garner. I have called and I have advocated for my son every single time. I had made sure I escalated properly so my son's care would be prioritized. This is now happening almost every month, and I don't understand why. Who is dropping the ball and not paying attention to what's happening to our children? So this is not only my son, but all of our differently abled children. This morning, and this is where I said I'm going to speak today, because this morning I found out that my son, starting tomorrow, is going to be picked up by a completely different company. I found this out within less than 24 hours. Now, I don't know how much experience you have with children on the spectrum, but they need consistency and preparation when a change is going to take place. As his mother and his #1 advocate, and as advocates around our children on the spectrum, we need respect. We need the notification prior to more than 28 hours when any type of change is going to occur. You know, and I start thinking, if this is happening to my child, how many other parents are being affected? How many other parents are having to take their time out of their workday? So please, I hope you to help me look into this. I need to make sure that our children are taken care of, and I know that our children matter. Thank you.
Thank you for all the public comment.
Chair Martin, I'd like to make a motion we approve the consent items as listed.
We have a motion to approve the consent items as listed. Do I hear a second? Second. Any discussion or debate? Ms. Mahaffey.
Wanted to point out that our 4-year-old Apex Friendship High School, due to growth in that area of Wake County, will be adding a modular classroom.
And that's item 5.I, should anybody want to see that. Any other discussion? Thank you for noting that. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. The consent agenda is passed. We now move to the first finance agenda item, request for the county commissioners to provide $4.964143 million additional appropriation for unanticipated transportation expenses. Minister Nieder.
Good evening, Dr. Martin, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. Yes, as we covered in your work session this afternoon, the Wake County Transportation Department is facing almost $5 million of unanticipated expenditures for the current fiscal year, and these expenditures are into the near future recurring expenditures. They break down into two primary areas, the first being in the area of yellow bus engine replacement. And of the $4.9 million amount, that amount is roughly 1.4, closer to $1.5 million. These are for older buses that the engines are basically failing and the entire engine needs to be replaced. We have about 50 of these engines that will be replaced this year. At the end of this year, there will still be approximately 200 engines in buses, and these buses still have a viable life. They're not at end of life, although the engine is failing, that will ultimately need to be replaced. The second major portion of this request is in the area of EC contract transportation services. Again, we went over details in your work session earlier this afternoon, but a high-level summary is we entered into a 1-year bridge contract with the EC vendors for the current year. At the time those contracts were negotiated, we were already into the budget development process for the current year. There was no additional funding requested. There is an additional funding requirement associated with those contracts to the tune of approximately $5 million. Again, we anticipate that will carry into the recurring contracts that we also spoke about at your work session in the coming years. So we are at this point requesting the $4.9 million in recurring funding through county appropriation. And last, I will just point out that the county has these funds reserved in their operating budget.
Mr. Sutton?
Move for approval of the request for an additional appropriation from the county commissioners for unanticipated transportation expenses.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Chair Martin. Yes, and I hope, Mr. Nieder, that you were here to hear Ms. Castillo's concern about EC services. So I was glad that we got an update in work session and that we would hear more next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Martin, I'll just make a note that this kind of expense we used to be able to deal with out of our fund balance. At one time, we had an agreement with the county that we could have a fund balance to be about 2% of our total budget or 6% of the county appropriation, and that was an agreement we had. Currently, our fund balance is maybe $6 million total, which is less than a day's operating expense. So that we're having to go to the county for this appropriation in part because we have no fund balance to go to. And that's not a healthy place for us to be ultimately. So I just wanted to add some context for the public to understand our request.
Thank you, and duly noted. I do want to indicate that Superintendent Moore and Manager Ellis, as well as our joint leadership team, have discussed this matter. So sometimes people have read an antagonistic stance between the two boards. That's not been what's happened. There's been good communication, but I do thank you for noting that issue. That is an important issue for us to consider going forward as we think about sustainable budgeting. Any further comment or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of requesting this additional appropriation from the county, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion passes. The second item before us is the bell schedule recommendations for the 2019-2020 school year in accordance with our board policy. Mr. Nieder.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. 2 weeks ago at your board work session, staff presented to you the recommended bell schedule changes for the 2019-2020 school year. A number of questions came up on a variety of the recommendations. Since then, we put together a question and answer on each of those various schools. That information was included in the board materials that was distributed through Assembly. I think that was published officially on Friday. I'm not going to go through those individually. I will note that since your work session 2 weeks ago, staff was able to make one change, accommodate one change for Southeast Raleigh Elementary School, and that was to shift that schedule for next year from what we had originally recommended, which was third tier, to bring it to second tier so it can align with some of the programs that are on the same campus with the YMCA that it is in joint partnership with. The other schedules remain as we shared with you 2 weeks ago. I will go through those if you would like, but again, we went through them 2 weeks ago. There are no additional recommended changes that we can accommodate without making additional changes to other schools at this time.
Mr. Sutton?
Move for approval of the bail schedule, 1920 bail schedule.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The floor is now open for discussion. Ms. Cash?
I had the opportunity to go back and review the film from 4/10/18 and 3/20/18. And I also had time to go back and review my emails that I sent out through this year. There were 5, and I could send them forward to the full board. And I agree that you didn't say yes or no when I was speaking that day. In the work session this is about Northridge. In the work session, Joe did nod yes when I said to the fact that this was a one-year thing, because the fact that was given to us that we were going to change Northridge to a third tier was because it was moving to the East Millbrook campus. You looked perplexed at that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason that it was changed to third tier was because of the fact that it was moving from the Northridge campus for 1 year to the East Millbrook campus temporarily, and that it was a further drive away, therefore the traffic would make it. And each time in these meetings I said I would like to be sure this is a 1 year consideration, that next year it will be coming back to us back on the 8:30 because the campus would be returning to Northridge. And the reason given was that. Each time I said that, I see that in the film that you did not answer yes or no, which to me, and Superintendent Moore, it would be appreciated that I think at the beginning I said, actually, I would like to know up front, because I'm very particular about my words to my constituency. I said, if this is not a 1 year situation, I would like to be aware of that, because I would like to talk to my constituency to get them prepared that this would not go back. I take my word to my district very seriously. And I had the opportunity to send in all throughout this last year, some requests to see if anything had changed on that, and I was not responded on any one of those. And I went to Bob Sneidmiller, and I went to you, Mr. Nieder. Again, if there is a change or if there's anything that I need to know, I would like that rather than no response, I would like to have a response. I am not exactly prepared yet or understand. I see, and I'm speaking with Northridge this week, and I see where there is information about the West Millbrook campus, the East Millbrook campus, Millbrook Elementary you mentioned. I am not prepared to vote for the bell schedule tonight. I am not saying I'm going to find out anything different, but I feel because of the year that I gave my word, or we talked many times about it, I would like to have an opportunity to speak to the Northridge community as a whole, because I gave them my words it would be a 1 year situation. So I would like to have it polled for tonight. However, I do that.
Are you speaking of polling the entire bell schedule, or are you referring specifically to poll Northridge?
I thought that over, and I was going to poll Northridge, but I'm not sure that even the carry. I don't know if Mr. Fletcher has some concerns about the carry. I'm open to discuss that as well, so I'd like to wait to hear what he says on that.
So that would be a procedural motion to basically table the pending motion in second, if that's what you're asking.
Is that a motion I make now? I would like to, can I hear dialogue from
Absolutely.
Mr. Fletcher on?
Mr. Fletcher, do you have any comment?
Yeah, Mr. Nieder, an idea came in that if our issue is drivers, not buses, I believe we can say it. Well, first of all, let's say this is a resource issue. This is why we're having to make these changes. It is a resource issue. And we are constrained, and we make a lot of decisions that are constrained by resource that are not the decisions we would prefer to make.
True.
Okay. So in terms, as I understand, Cary Elementary and Briarcliff Elementary both have 4 bus routes. We have 100 buses sitting on Rock Quarry Road not used. Is there a way to assign buses to these schools with drivers that might have other jobs at these schools, like custodians, teacher assistants, cafeteria workers? And since the bus would be resident at that school only, they could make the runs to that school, work at that school, then take the kids home. Is there a way for that to work when we've got only 4 buses per school, only 4 routes per school, and then take those schools completely out of the total quagmire multi-level chess set that winds up being the scheduling challenges for the other schools. Could you share with me your thoughts and possibilities of that kind of strategy?
Sure. Well, first, I'll say openly, anything is possible. That said, by going down certain paths, it will create other opportunities or unintended consequences, quite possibly. You are correct that the key shortage are the number of drivers. In order to accomplish something along the lines of what I believe a parent may have suggested, would require to effectively create a mini bus district, if you will, for 2 schools, or perhaps 2 mini bus districts, one for each of 2 schools. That in and of itself sounds pretty simple, especially when you look at things, well, it's just 4 buses, and it's just 4 buses. But that brings into then where the bus is located and what happens when we need subs, and how is that managed when we work on a district-wide basis and we use district-wide resources to back things up. And again, it sounds relatively simplistic in implementation. In having consistency, it would create some opportunities, and I say opportunities as challenges. There would be training. We did do some survey work with teaching assistants and custodians 2 years ago, trying to get a sense of how many would be willing to go back and get their CDL and take on additional work. It was not positive feedback. There are some timing issues as well. Granted, those timing issues could probably work out. For the custodians, they need to be in place before those buses would arrive, and possibly after those buses would leave in the afternoon. So there are a lot of dynamics there. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would come with some challenges. And the one other thing I would just caution the board with, because the board can ultimately make whatever decision they choose to and instruct staff to implement, would be that if we create a transportation district for a school, or 2 transportation districts for 2 schools to accommodate a specific bell schedule, is that potentially setting the stage then for other schools to request something similar? And at what point do you lose a sense of equilibrium in a structure and a system? That would be my feedback.
My understanding is that neighboring counties require their TAs, some of them require some of their TAs to get CDLs, and it becomes a condition of their employment. I'm not sure we need to go to that extreme, but the issue is finding drivers. And it would seem that we can be very creative about what opportunities there may be for someone who's already resident at a school to add driving to their skill set and job responsibilities. Now, I do understand that I believe in Johnston County, they still want to avoid overhead. So one person drives the bus in the morning and another person drives the bus in the afternoons. They've got 2 drivers for each bus at a school. I'm concerned that what seems like a fairly simple solution isn't fully understood. I admit that. I also would hope that it's not dismissed simply because it's not part of the giant puzzle. So I don't know how to flesh that out. And there may be other schools. I mean, none of us, most of us, I believe, would rather have elementary schools start before 9:15. These several schools have managed to escape the previous changes. Numerous parents have shared that their employment, they've managed to structure their life around this bell schedule so that they can avoid cost of child care before school, whereas moving to 9:15 is going to add that as a personal cost of child care since they still have to be at work at whatever time their schedule is. So I'm just trying to look for what opportunities we might have to put a better solution on the table.
Mr. Sutton.
I don't know if that's a solution or simple. I think that's actually a poor assumption to make if we think that bus drivers would also want to be a custodian or a cafeteria worker. Not disparaging any of those occupations, but I think that's a poor assumption to make that. I mean, that too.
Well, if they get 40 hours instead of 30 hours, all right, right now our bus drivers are 30 hours, basically. Some of them get more, but 30 is the target for make sure they can get benefits. So if I'm looking at someone who's in the school expanding their opportunity to become a new bus driver as an add-on responsibility. That's what I'm looking at, not because it's only served that one school. So,
if I could speak to that, we've looked at that angle of attack too. That's a little bit different of what I was speaking to earlier, which was looking at a school-based staff member, such as a custodian, a child nutrition worker, a teaching assistant, and expanding their role. We have also looked at the other side of that, which is, can we attract more bus drivers by having a full-time opportunity as opposed to a 30-hour-a-week-ish opportunity, and effectively have them in the school after they do the delivery work. And again, we've done surveys of our existing bus drivers. I think we may have even done some exit polling for bus drivers leaving. And even beyond any logistical challenges of implementing that, again, the general feedback we got was there was not an interest in that.
Ms. Mahaffey?
This is a little bit separate than Ms. Cash's question, so I don't know if procedurally we need to go.
We have no motion.
There's
so
no
it's just
motion.
discussion.
Okay. So we come back to this and we revisit bell schedules. This is my third time now, and every time we acknowledge that, you know, the American Association of Pediatrics recommends that high schools start later to help boost achievement and to just with their natural sleep cycle. And when we push back elementary schools to the 9:15, we hear about the struggles of childcare and, you know, children, many parents' children, not all of mine, are up at 6 a.m. And school starts at 9. So they're already potentially tired when they get to school. Is there a way, and this is an ask of my colleagues and also staff, I know there was a study done a few years ago about this, but we're now moving up to, I believe it's 191 schools in our district, to look at this holistically and see what it would take to make, if there's will to look into this, to make changes into the start times to align with those recommended standards and see what the barriers are financially, resource-wise, and what it would take to make that happen. Because I don't want to wait until this time next year to once again acknowledge that we know that it's something that we could be doing instead of, say, taking the time to explore it and see what could be.
And obviously, we can take that under advisement.
Right. I don't know what I don't.
There are active studies. Not a lot has changed since then, but we can dig that out and we can have that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Haggerty, then back to Ms. Cash.
Mr. Chair and Mr. Nieder and Superintendent Moore, if it's appropriate, we do get a lot of questions from parents about the bell schedule. And I've had individual one-on-one conversations, but here in an open board meeting, could we just basically review why we have the bell schedule set up, why it is, why the high school students start first, why we go to middle, and why we go to elementary school? Because as I look down this list, Abbott's Creek Elementary, 9:15, Adams Elementary, 9:15, Austin, and I can just keep going. Almost all of our elementary schools are a 9:15 start. My daughter, elementary school, has a 9:15 start. I think there's a lot of questions and a lot of debate about it. I think parents, people in the audience, just even other school board members might like to know a little bit more about why.
Sure. Bob and Jeff, I may turn to you too, but I'll start. Again, Wake County operates its yellow bus transportation service on a multi-tier system. The primary reason behind the well, let me explain what multi-tier is. That means for any given yellow bus, it may deliver 3 sets of students to 3 different schools in the morning, and then repeat something similar in the afternoon. And that's a way of taking a scarce resource, i.e. a bus driver, as well as the operating costs of that bus, and leveraging them, if you will. The 3-tier system dictates that you're going to have to spread out when that bus is delivering the first set of students, the second set of students, and the third set of students. And over time, I can go back about a decade, I can't go back beyond that, standards have been established, or tiers, and we have a 3-tier system. The vast majority of our schools are on either Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. Tier 1 generally starts, and there's some minor variations by a few minutes here or there, but Tier 1 generally starts around 7:20, 7:25 in the morning, and the bell in the afternoon is around 2:20-ish. And then Tier 2 starts generally an hour and 5-10 minutes later, and then same gap in the afternoon. And then Tier 3, as Mr. Haggerty said, generally starts at 9 or 9:15. As a general rule, and the vast majority of our schools fall in these categories, our elementary schools are on Tier 3. We have had some exceptions, but the vast majority of all elementaries are on Tier 3. Likewise, the vast majority of middle schools are on Tier 2, and the vast majority of all high schools are on Tier 1. Well, why don't you kind of mix and match? Why don't you have some on one and some on the other? They're again, generally speaking, distinctions between the needs of delivering elementary, middle, and high school students. High school students, we're allowed fewer students per bus. We cannot have as many students per bus. What is the max on the bus for high school? 48 students, whereas for elementary, we can have up to 72 students on a bus. So that's going to speak to things, and I'll get back to that in a minute. We've got less than 30 high schools in an 800-plus square mile county that we're delivering high school students to. That means we're covering a much greater area just for fewer schools. It takes more capacity to do that, if you will, or more buses. As a general rule, a high school on average has about 25 or 30 buses to run its routes. You mentioned a couple elementary schools that in turn have 4 or 5 buses to cover its routes, and that's pretty typical as well, sometimes a little bit more. We have one high school, Enloe, for example, that has over 70 buses to carry its routes. Now, Enloe is a little bit unique, like some of the other magnets, in that it is a countywide draw with neighborhood transportation services. And it does, correct. And that allows some exceptions, again, to the tiering that we've got. But again, those are the exceptions and not the majority. And as you go from high school to middle school to elementary, you have more and then more students allowed per bus. And then you have greater densities because we've got more middle schools than high schools covering the same geographic area. and even more elementary schools covering that same geographic area. And that's why keeping the high schools together, the middle schools together, and then the elementary schools together as from a tiering standpoint allows the multiple tier process to effectively function. I don't know if that's a little bit of a help.
I think so. I guess what I'm trying to get is an answer for why couldn't we just flip elementary and high school, for example, in terms of start times? What impact would that have on the buses and the routes?
Good evening. We could certainly look at, flipping elementary and high school. I think what we would need to do is look at, as Mr. Nieder referenced, that time in between the tiers. And we would just have to establish the appropriate time so that we could, get from one tier to the next. But, it's been done, and I think it's just a matter of scheduling the tiering. We probably can't move away from tiering buses because of the magnitude of that cost that we would add if we did that. So.
Is it not fair to say from previous discussions that if you did flip, because you have the multiple number of smaller routes, that if you started that in the morning till it trickles down to your high school, and then you have the big county-wide distances to traverse at the later times when there's higher traffic, that your bus times would increase, your ride times would dramatically increase. So it's a combination of both cost of dollars and cost of time. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that's definitely correct, yes.
Ms. Cash, you had your hand up earlier. Okay. Mr. Sutton?
So a couple of questions, I guess. One, if we're talking about flipping that, will your transportation or routing models, could you actually do that and then give a report to the board to see what that would look like or the impact of that would be in terms of time, number of drivers, costs, that sort of thing? Could that be done?
Absolutely, that could be done. That would be, just to give a sense, we will not be coming back in 2 weeks with that.
No, I mean, obviously that would not help the decision.
An extensive modeling that would take quite some time, but absolutely that could be done. I guess I would add to Mr. Haggerty's question about, what are the implications. I would ask the board to all think that the implications transcend beyond the actual transportation and beyond the time, whether that's after school activities or even before school activities that students currently participate in at any given level, that with the shifting of time, what are the implications? And then you've got activities that may take place with outside or non-Wake County schools, and what are the implications there? There are a lot of moving parts that are just beyond the actual transportation that would need to be considered in this overall choreography of considering a change.
And I get that, but I guess my point is, as we review this point every year, I think for some to actually see what those implications are and it not be simply speculation or conjecture, but to actually see and however much time it takes, and a full internal report that would, again, everything from the impact on athletics to, the start times, the human capital impact, the financial impact, and I think at least the entire board would have that information. And again, we see in front of us what that impact is, and we're not trying to kind of figure out in our head what that looks like. At least at that point, if we had that, it may or may not put this discussion to bed, and we're not talking about the same thing every year. And then beyond that, if that doesn't help, then it may be an external study that's done. But I think, in my mind, that's the only way to perhaps keep from continuing to have this sort of conversation, year after year, and it would at least satisfy all stakeholders involved that, okay, we really can or can't do this, or here there are options that we can do that. But it seems to me that I don't know that there's any other recourse unless we just like having this discussion every year.
I'd say if the board is interested in that, I seem to see general consensus about a model that shows us what would it take and what would it cost and what would the impacts be, then that's something that staff can work on.
And,
yes.
And while they're not as large, Guilford and Durham counties have both flipped their schedule so that their elementary go earlier and high schools later. So I know they don't have 3 tiers, but maybe we can get some lessons from them.
And I think that would be an important part of the modeling, is just not looking at the impact on us, but because of our size in comparison to and how others have done it. So we, it may require us to benchmark that once you have the findings with Gwinnett and Fairfax and others that we benchmark, and then smaller, so that we've got, again, a full accounting, if you will, and all the information. And again, that may be a fairly labor-intensive process. I would imagine that it would, but I think it would be worth the time and the effort so that, again, we can sort of put this conversation to bed.
Yes. A couple of comments. There'll be 160 families of 160,000 students who will be very interested in how that might impact them. And I would imagine most employers in our community would experience some impact from any change we make in the bell schedule. So it's going to be a community communication effort to assess, and it's going to be a yeoman's task to do that. I think the journey's maybe worthwhile, but I think we can't only do it ourselves. It's going to have to be broader.
Ms. Maffey?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that this is, let's be intentional and get the information. And I don't think we're looking at a 2-week turnaround. I think, we might find the results of it this time next year. But hearing from different stakeholders in the communities and what the barriers are, I think there's a lot of will to see what if.
Ms. Cash.
I am going to make a motion to table the Northridge piece. If we need to do more, that's fine. The reason, and I'm not trying to make special favors here, but it's important to me to go back to that community. I don't have all the answers. I asked for them last year. Again, I can give the information to you, but I do not know. Nobody has told me yet about the before school care at a new facility. They're going back to a new facility. I was told that the before care that they had last year was not going to be available at the Northridge campus. I don't know the cost of that. I feel like I need to have that opportunity to find out those answers for them. It doesn't mean it might change anything, but I'm making a motion to table that Northridge piece tonight.
I could be heard just momentarily on that. I think since the motion that's been seconded is for the entire, bell schedule to be approved, that I think that the motion at this point would be a motion first to divide the proposal, and then if the board approves that, then the piece that you're talking about, then you could do a motion to defer consideration. One other reminder, the deadline is April 1st in policy, so that if you do elect to, and that's the board's call, to defer consideration of an aspect of it, then that one, when you approve it, you'd have to waive policy.
That is correct. And we have waived policy in the past, so there is historical precedent to that. All right, so what I'm hearing is a motion to divide the current motion. Do we divide for the specific purpose, or does the specific purpose come as a second motion?
I view what Ms. Cash is saying as a motion to divide the agenda item to have everything together as one except for the Northridge Elementary, and that would be done separately. And I think is that correct? That's your motion?
Exactly then.
Okay, so we have a motion to divide the bell schedule, taking Northridge off the table for the moment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
Aye.
The motion carries. Northridge will be considered separately. We now will vote on the primary motion. Yes?
That's fine. Either way. You want to vote on everything else? Yes, that's fine. And then we can come to the second one. That's fine.
So let's go ahead and vote on the primary motion, which is the bell schedules for everything recommended except Northridge Elementary School. We have a motion and a second for that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The bell schedules are approved with the exception of Northridge. Now on the table is a motion to table the, so it's neither to approve nor disapprove, but just to table for further investigation the decision on the Northridge Elementary School.
If that's your motion.
So move.
Okay, we have a motion.
Does that include waiving board policy? Or was
And
that a
that
separate
would
motion?
include waiving board policy so that we are in keeping with our guidelines.
Thank you.
Is that correct, Ms. Cash?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Mahavi. So that would be the motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second.
Motion.
You don't understand. The motion at this point, since Northridge has been pulled out as a separate item from the main agenda item, now there is a motion to table consideration of that one bell schedule bell schedule for that school, to table that for future, and to also sort of waive board policy, because bell schedule is supposed to be approved by April 1st. So that's the pending motion that's been seconded.
Well, I was saying that wasn't, the waiver wasn't stated. So I think someone ought to just state the motion so that it's clear that we're tabling the one on Northridge and waiving policy.
Okay, I thought that we had clarified that. So the motion is to table the Northridge piece and waive the policy that it has to be done by April 1st.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The Northridge issue has been tabled for a subsequent meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next action item, well, and I will just note that we will be in discussion to figure out how to go forward with some kind of a study to look at comprehensive issues surrounding bell schedules and transportation.
Thank you.
And that will take time. This is not a 2-week endeavor.
Fairfax, which is bigger than us and has 4 tiers, took 7 years to move their high schools half an hour. Fairfax County, Virginia. But I don't think you need 7 years. I think you can do it in less.
We will try not to do it. It takes 7 years.
It was 1 year for the plan and 6 years for the politics.
So this is not a simple issue, but we, in the business of education, are not limited to simple things. All right. The third action item before us is a technology contract. Ms. Marla Geddes.
Good evening, Dr. Martin, esteemed board members, and Superintendent Moore. First of all, apologies for bringing this to you so late, but hopefully it will be worth its while because we're getting more for less. So that's our plan here. That's always a good thing. So tonight I bring to you the contract for Spectrum Enterprise. Our current network usage suggests that we need to begin to upgrade our bandwidth at select district sites. Due to federal requirements for the application of E-rate discounts against these services, and in order to meet this year's application deadlines, a bid request was posted and submitted proposals were reviewed. After the review of all bids, Spectrum Enterprise was considered the most cost-effective option. The proposed rate structure will allow the district to increase high school and campus connect sites, which are any site that has the elementary, middle, and high all on one campus, from a 1 gigabit to a 5 gigabit service with minimal increase in monthly cost. So we'll go from a $725 a month cost to a $786 cost. The monthly rate for our current 1 gigabit services to the remaining sites will actually be reduced from $725 to $455. So the funding for the aggregate circuit that is planned is actually planned for in the Technology Services operating budget, and the PRC 15 funds will be used to cover all the additional circuits that we purchase for this. The annual anticipated cost savings will be approximately $347,412 on an annual basis.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Do we have any questions, Mr. Sutton?
So you said that's only for the campuses where we have multiple schools on one campus?
No, it's also all our high schools. So when we look at usage, our high schools and any of our campuses where we have 3 schools, they're all starting to hit the top of the bandwidth amount. So we want to increase that bandwidth so that their service is uninterrupted during that time. As we have middle schools, which are starting to creep up in that as well, we'll start to look at upgrading those, and then eventually elementary schools or any school that's starting to hit bandwidth issues.
And I assume that's because of the demand.
Correct.
So what about schools that are in our most rural schools? Do they experience similar challenges or what have you because of their and are all of our schools on one? I assume they're all on Spectrum.
Yes, they're all on Spectrum. And yes, rural or urban, we're hitting the same issues if it's a high school right now. High school usage is starting to tap out.
But we don't see any difference in like a school that's in downtown Raleigh versus.
No, our network is really strong, and so that's not an issue.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you for the cost savings. With that, can I hear a motion to return to closed session for the items previously described?
Move to approve the return to closed session for the items previously stated on the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The board will return to closed session. Thank you.